Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Experience Matters show. Thank you all for joining. We have a very special guest on the show today. It's always a special guest when one of our customers joins. I've worked closely with Michael for a few months now, running multiple market research projects, setting up customer experience programs. It's been a fantastic experience, given his knowledge and expertise in this space. Michael, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Shibani. Happy to be here.
How's it going?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Very well.
I know your official title is product marketing at Hitachi, but you do a whole bunch of other things, and your role extends way beyond that. Do you want to just take some time, introduce, what do you really do at Hitachi?
Yeah, that's a good question. Product marketing is kind of the official scope of what I do, but I suppose the way I look at that is very customer centric. I suppose we'll talk about that later. So, I'm working on projects that are what I would call deep in the back end. So it's working with the product team, but also as a marketer, very front end kind of work in terms of marketing programs, trying to reach customers and different audiences. So it's quite a variety of things that we're working on.
Yeah. I can definitely see that with the number of things that you have going on simultaneously. So it's really great that you could spend this time with us. I think it's going to be a fantastic show. But where are you based now, Michael? Are you in Singapore itself, or are you traveling on work?
Yeah, I'm in sunny Singapore, working from home, like many of us, I think, are still doing. We're still, most of us enjoying that privilege of working from home. I just saw an article just earlier, actually, about, I think it's from Microsoft, like there's a difference of opinion between bosses and employees about whether it's productive to work at home. So
and everyone's got just their own take on the whole thing. I think even just my husband and me and my family, and I pretty much enjoy working from home. He's waiting to get back to office and work closely with his team. So it's very different, and I think it just, if we do a survey, it'd probably be 50-50. Those who want to get back to office.
Some people love it, some people hate it, and it probably depends on your role as well, and who you need to work with.
Sure. Yeah. So we've got a few people who've joined. Shall we kick this off, Michael?
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. So our topic for today is really, and it's core of what Michael is doing at Hitachi as well, building that culture of customer insights in the company. Right. So one is, how do you go about doing that? What are the steps that you need to take? What are those different stages that you will be going through when you're trying to set up this culture? And also, once that is set up, what is really the impact going to be like, right? So what is the impact going to be on product, on marketing, and a whole other, list of things that affect your business that can be improved, that can be, that there is a whole shift in the way it is run when you're relying a lot on the customer insights that you collect. So with that, Michael, I'm going to hand it over to you. Do you want to walk us through how do you set this up to start off with?
Well, I guess, the first thing to start from is, I'm in marketing, right? And I know, Shibani, you probably work with a lot of people who are in market research, CX specifically.
Yeah.
And, professionally, I'm not. I would say I'm an amateur, in many ways. I'm coming from a marketing angle and looking at, as a marketer, how can I learn from customers, right? So that's kind of my overall perspective. And as it shows on this chart here, to me, marketing should be a two-way dialogue, right? On the one hand, you're trying to persuade, you're trying to reach out to your prospects, you're trying to remind them of your brand, let them recall your brand, let them understand your product. So it's kind of an outbound, right? And think in a lot of companies and a lot of marketers, we kind of focus on that maybe too much, you know. And if the 80-20 rule, maybe we spend sort of 80% thinking about that, and 20% or less on the other side of it, which is, how do we learn from customers? And I don't just mean like listen from like, chatting with people on social media in a one-to-one kind of way, but I mean, programs at scale, scientific, research-driven insights as well. Right? And I think that as it shows on the right, that's the learn part. So I want to be a great marketer. I want to persuade people of my messages. To do that, I've got to be a good listener. I've got to learn from the customers. So to me, you want to aim actually to be sort of 80% of your brain, if you like. 80% of the way you're thinking about things is, how can I learn? And I don't know about you, Shibani, in your experience and other clients, but oftentimes when we set out with a research project to understand X or Y about customers, we can get the answers to X or Y, but then we realize we also need to learn about Z.
Happens more often than you think.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's why I say here, it's kind of an ongoing journey. I think customer insights isn't a box you check and you go, right, we've done that. That one study or that segmentation we did, that's it. We can go back in a couple of years and look at it again. No, it's it's a journey. It's an ongoing learning process. And you just want to do, or you should be wanting to do more and more of it. So that's kind of the way I look at it from a marketing lens and from a research angle.
No, it and I agree with you. It makes sense. There's no point in persuading if you don't really know what it is that they want or what it is that they're looking for. So in the 80-20, the 20-80 in this case would definitely make sense.
Yeah, at least that's what we should aim for. But
Yeah. So in terms of, I know you've got, can you walk us through the 6 stages that you have here in terms of setting up this? Typically, when you start setting up your customer insights, what are those different stages that you'd go through?
Yeah. So I hope this sort of makes sense to everybody. Maybe people would use slightly different words, but this is something I put down just based on my own observations and experience. I think that if we start on the left, you've got these early stages. The first one's denial, right? And we've all met people like this. It's like, we understand our customers, of course, right? You're really not taking an action, and you're not willing to as an organization, right? And then I think there's a very interesting stage where it's conceptual. And I think this often happens in large organizations where maybe a senior leader has said, we should be listening to customers. And people might take their cue from that, right? And I've seen it happen, and people start to say things like, well, wouldn't it be good if we knew X or Y? Wouldn't it be good if we had a segmentation that was research-based or this or that, right? So there's like these conceptual ideas of, we're starting to think about it, but we're not quite sure what to do. And then a lot of companies are in this stage, I would say, and this is kind of the crucial one, whether you go beyond it. It's that experimental. It's like, let's put our toe in the water. Let's bring in a research agency. Let's spend some money. Let's do a piece of research, one piece. Let's do a segmentation. And, I've seen teams who do that, and then their experience with it for different reasons is not good. They feel like, oh, it didn't give us what we needed. Let's just move on and not bother with this idea of customer insights anymore. So it's kind of a dangerous stage in a way. And then I think that's why the line is there in the middle. You kind of go through that, kind of key barrier where you start to move into what I call an emerging culture.
Yep.
And the key difference here is you're building repeatable process, which is what you want. Like one study, it's not meaningful, right? You need basically a commitment to continue to learn, as I was saying earlier. And at this stage, hopefully you might have, some people in-house who have some experience or certainly have some vision about putting this together, right? And you're looking to agencies and so on to support you with that. But you have probably quite a small number of people in the organization who are really advocates for this, I put 10%. I mean, it's a made-up number, but it's indicative, right? And then you get into these advanced stages, systematic, and that's where you have some experience running repeatable processes. You have capabilities that if a team says to you, can we do this research, you know how to do it. You can put that in place quickly, In systematic, you're learning, you're doing it better, learning to do it better. And then you're starting to get into areas where you can connect with other data systems and then into mature. It's on the chart there. So, very few companies probably on the right of the chart. Most companies are somewhere experimental and emerging.
I'll put you on the spot, and can you tell us where do you think Hitachi is on this with these 6 stages? No, there is a lot that y'all are running, but are you still experimental stage? Have you gotten buy-in and crossed that threshold into emerging and systematic?
Yeah, I'd say we're exactly on that line. I think I've been trying to move us out of experimental, and some of the work we're doing together, Shibani, is about not just one piece of research, but repeatable processes, repeatable capabilities, building resources in-house, plus with agency side. So I think we're on the threshold of that. We're in the early stages of emerging, if you like. It's what we're trying to do. And obviously I want to make sure that we're successful with that, and therefore we don't go backwards, and that we keep on marching to the right of that chart.
All right. System of insight.
So as it says here, to me, I'm not sure where this phrase come from. I probably must have copied it from somewhere in my head, or someone said it to me at some point. But I like this idea, going back to repeatable processes, right? A system of insight. So it's an organized process where basically learning from customers, So one of the key differences is, thinking back about the experimental stage, right? It's like, let's ask an agency and let's do a project. A system of insight is we have people in our organization who they may not know how to execute the research, it depends, but they know at least which agencies to go to. They have ability, they have budget, they have an understanding in the organization, they have an ability to go and do this. That's the very basics of it. But in a very sophisticated scenario, a system of insight could be not just kind of some kind of vague process, but it could be an entire data platform in-house that is connecting your outreach to customers, your transactional data, your CX data, all kinds of stuff. So that system of insight can be basic, it could be very sophisticated.
And it kind of covers a whole after you move beyond that experimental stage, right?
Yeah, I think so. So I think once you cross that threshold, you're building the ability to do customer insights work over and over again, better and better. And you can do it time efficient, cost efficient from your organization's perspective, right? So emerging stage, systematic stage, mature stage, they're all having in place types of system of insight. And I think, those different stages of maturity will deliver you different kind of benefits. And I've put 5 here, but there are more, I'm sure, and everyone will have different sort of experiences and ideas about what you can do better when you have repeatable systems of insight in your business.
No, I agree with you. Just based on your experience, because like you said, it can better products, better marketing, better, customer experiences, all of that. All of them are separate teams within an organization. So getting buy-in, I think, is the biggest, selling that culture, selling the importance of relying on customer insights. I'm assuming that is the biggest hurdle.
Well, I think that will depend on the organization, but I think if you are going from an experimental stage, then probably the organization doesn't have so much institutional memory buy-in of this kind of work. So yes, I think you have to pull a lot of levers, to get to experimental to emerging. At some point, if you think about it, someone's got to sign a check. Someone's got to go, here's some resources to do this. I believe in the value of this. So you need, if I was going to make a list, you need your executive support to do that, and probably the best way, my advice to anyone out there who feels like they're in a experimental stage is, make sure that the ad hoc projects you do are successful, can be presented as successful, can present it clearly so that you can move on to sort of win resources you need to move to that next level.
Absolutely. Makes sense. So, and also in terms of, you might need to write a check, but you can also start small. It need not be a full-fledged, full-scale project at this point. You can show small wins to get them to, grow the program and get that buy-in. I'm assuming that would be the easier approach.
Yeah, that's very true. And you could be in an organization where, for various reasons, you really don't have much resource to do even that experimental stage, So what are some of the ways that you can do that in a more low-tech, lo-fi kind of way, And I think we're very lucky today. We live in a internet digitized culture, so it's a lot cheaper, a lot more possible to reach out to your customers than it was, even 10 years ago, I would say. The number of platforms out there, for only a few $100, you can do some kind of outreach, right? Beyond obviously sort of, the basics of personally reaching out to customers, but you can at least begin to run some surveys. Maybe you can do some informal kind of roundtable focus group type discussions with some of your clients. Like, I think those are some of the lo-fi ways you could do it, to get it going.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of, I know, better products, right? So what would that look like from a product, development process?
Yeah, so the chart here, I guess, apart from all the colors, sorry everyone, the coordinating colors there, bright blue and purple and yellow. But I think the first thing is, without looking at any detail on here, is to notice it's a triangle. And what I was trying to say with that is, if we think about building a process to bring insights into product development, okay, so that means, how can we help product teams create better products, services, offerings of the future, right, by engaging customers. It's a triangle because one of, I think, the important concepts is you start wide. I always talk about the concept of, you start wide here and you want to end narrow. And that means you want to have a very open mind. You want to explore lots of different possibilities, right? Because ultimately, you want to get to some ideation there right in the middle of the chart. And to have good ideation, you need both depth and breadth, right? You need
Yep.
you need to be exploring a fairly wide angle, not too wide, and you want to do it with depth. So it's a triangle for that reason. At the end of it, you come out with a product or 10 products or whatever the output is you're looking for. Without going through all the stages, I mean, the definition stage, or that idea of a market exploration, that's, I think, somewhat optional, and that's not customer research driven, actually. To me, that is very useful if, as an organization, you're trying to maybe enter some new areas, some new territories.
Yep.
I don't necessarily mean like a new geographic territory, but maybe a new part of the portfolio, right?
Yep.
If you're, simple analogy, if you're a clothes manufacturer, right, and you make scarves, right, and you want to look into, I want to start making gloves, it's an adjacent area, but maybe you need to sort of map out that territory a bit. So how can you do that from, are there analysts you can go to, for an outside perspective that's also, somewhat expert? Are there people internally who can do that kind of market analysis? And so I think you want, as a researcher, you want to partner with your product team to be able to define an area, because otherwise you end up with a research brief that's sort of like, let's explore what customers think about X, but the problem is X is such a wide topic, right?
Yeah.
That you're not going to easily get to meaningful insight. So you kind of want to map out what X is, and then you move into the discovery, which is really the key part, and that's where you're doing the actual custom research, whether it's qual or quant or mixed method, whatever it is. And because you've hopefully narrowed the scope a bit, so you're looking at very particular areas of X territory, your research can drill down a bit deeper. And then you get to ideation. I buy into the concept of 3 lenses, where you have your customer lens, which is the discovery work, the research you've done, as a researcher, and you're looking to combine that with a market lens, which is a perspective from your product team, and a technology lens, from your product team or a R&D team, that kind of thing. And then, cross-functional groups internally who can come together and be inspired by all of that material. And then, the rest of it's kind of self-explanatory in that you tech validate, you can then go back and test concepts with customers, look at pricing, you can do conjoin, all that stuff. And then at the end, right, as a researcher, as a research team, as a customer insight specialist, you want to empower the executives, empower your product team to make better development decisions, right? What are they going to build? What are they going to invest in? And so all of that leads up to that moment. And then after you've launched a product, obviously building CX measurement and specifically product experience measurement capabilities, whether that's a survey, that you somehow get after you purchase a product 6 months later or whatever it is, and then feed that right back into the process. So I said I wouldn't talk about everything on the chart, but I did. Sorry.
No, it was good in terms of walking us through those different stages, but there is a certain amount of industry knowledge that you need in order to be able to run this kind of research, right? You need the team to be able to when you're looking at experimental research, to actually know the kind of research and to run the research well, because a lot of times we've seen teams who are doing this research, but it kind of goes off track, and you're going to be collecting the wrong insights if you don't ask the right questions or ask it in the right way. So if you have the for everyone who's joined, if you have the knowledge within the team to run it, then fantastic, and go ahead. Otherwise, if you can, there are options to hand it over to, let's say, for example, even Question Pro, we have our own research team who can run these kind of projects for you, right? So your objective and all of that is clearly defined. So we know, so that it's along those lines, and then we come back to you with hey, these are the insights from that kind of research that you want to run. So just calling that out, because it's important to run it the right way as well.
Yeah, very much so. And I think that's like a two sides of that coin, because the difficulty you're talking about is you need to have experience and expertise in conducting market research, or somebody does, right?
Yeah.
And so that could be you're looking to Question Pro to provide that. It could be though, for some people on today, they could be already expert in that, and they want to partner with Question Pro to deliver it. But their challenge might be they're not necessarily expert enough on the products, the kind of internal perspective. So it's anyone in that scenario, I would say, don't start to try and do these projects until you've built some kind of relationship with your product team. You need to identify those people who get what you're trying to do and buy into it, but they have the product expertise, because when you design the research, someone's got to be expert on how to do research, and someone's got to be an expert on the market you're in, and that's what you need to combine.
I'm assuming that's a point number 2 over here. Don't rely on
I suppose it is. Yeah, actually it is. Yeah. I do think that, if you just outsource all the analysis, a lot of teams inside organizations who, they're non-expert on market research, so they go to an agency, right? And it's like, I want to know X. Give me the results, right? Give me the report. But the real gold, like most things in life is, you've got to dig for it. And I think Question Pro is a great example of a research partner who can help you dig. But I think you've also got to have people in your organization who know what gold looks like, from that product, from that company or industry lens perspective. So, I don't think you should outsource the whole analysis and understanding of it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Or at least once that comes in, combine it with the knowledge that you've already collected internally on the products.
Fair. Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. A few other. That's right. Yeah.
No, I was just, some of the other learnings that you've highlighted here, keep track of your rejected concepts. That's not something that people think of often because, hey, that's fair, right? At a later stage or down the line, it might be relevant again. Any insights and thoughts on that?
Yeah, I talked a lot, right, about repeatable process, and to me, that's when you cross that line in the earlier chart where you get into an emerging insights culture. You're building a system of insight. So you're not, you're looking at whether it's annually, 6 months, every 5 years, whatever makes sense for your company's product portfolio. You want to rerun that research cycle. You might pick different topics even to focus on, right? And when you rerun it, you'll find if you keep track of the concepts that were not executed from the last go around, maybe because feasible, too expensive, not confident in it, if those topics are coming up again in your research, you can go back to them and relook at them. And then you should just also, even you're not doing new research on them, you should just review them. A lot of times I found things get forgotten, and then you think, well, wait a minute, we actually had something very similar to this point that's just come up, and we kind of said no at the time, but maybe we should relook. So I think you've got to have somebody, whether it's, depending on what department you're in, whether you're in a research team or you're in a marketing team or the product team themselves, someone's got to keep track of the things that didn't make it off the drawing board and check to see if they're now relevant.
They're now relevant. Perfect. Anything else, Michael, on this before we move to, I think, better marketing?
I would just say in terms of, if we focus more on the actual research execution, I think number one, is a point that I've invariably found. It's this idea that you have to be very careful, I think, when you design research, and also in your expectations and the way you define a research brief, to sort of think around a topic, I call it. And the reason for that is invariably customers or people that you're engaging with or seeking to learn from, they define things differently from your organization internally. So when the organization says we want to develop products in this area, or we want to learn about this topic, it's important that you give the opportunity for the people you're engaging, whether it's a focus group or even a quant study, for them to define it first. So give an example, a real example is current now. We're doing work together, right, on air quality, as you know. And how does the company, the organization that I work for, define air quality? I could tell you they have some very specific technical aspects of that. But if I ask a consumer how they define it, it could well be different and could take us into different territories. And in the end, are we trying to build a product that's based on the way we see the world, or should we be trying to build a product based on the way our customers see the world? Right. And so I think that's really important. And if you're not sure how to design research in that way, then make sure you've got some experts who can help you do it, because it's, I think, super important. Otherwise, you just go charging ahead on this internal definition of a topic, and you've just gone past all these really valuable learnings and insights that would have totally redefined the product if you'd have only asked it a different way.
Yeah, this is a fantastic show. So much that you're sharing. So for everyone who's joined, if you have a question, you want to leverage Michael's experience in the industry, maybe something that you're facing in your company right now that he can help, please just send in your questions in the chat below, and then we can answer it on live. If we're not able to, we can always get back to you at the end of the show as well. So feel free to add your questions.
Yeah, happy to take anyone's questions.
Awesome. Better marketing vision and customer experiences. So
yeah, just a few quick points on these. I mean, better marketing, I always, so going back to the beginning, I'm actually in a marketing team, right? I'm a marketer who is very passionate about customer-centric organizations and customer insights. Now, how to use that in the marketing space, or why use that? In my experience, the best marketing teams are always those that are hungry to learn about the customers, hungry to define and redefine the target audience. There are lots of skills in marketing that are talked about, and you'll find marketing teams who are great creatively. You'll find marketing people who are great in terms of, measurement and tracking, for example, right? Are great at using MarTech. But the common one, I think, the one that really redefines what you can achieve as a marketer is having that customer view. And so, I just wanted to briefly state here that there are lots of ways and areas in marketing that research can help. And so I always, although I just talked a lot about how you can use customer insights to help a product team, I always say, if you can, it depends on your organization, your scenario, but you might build the business case to invest in customer insights because there is support to improve, redefine, shape the future product portfolio, right? So in a sense, you build a business case to say, we want to make better products, we need customer insights. If that's the case, I always say, well, the side benefit of that, you've built that capability, you're building that repeatable process, that ecosystem of vendors, whatever it is, use it in your marketing, use it to shape your marketing, right?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of marketing teams out there who will spend a lot of money with, just to pick one example, content marketing on the right-hand side, And they spend a lot of money with content marketing agencies in kind of a turnkey approach, like we should content X, right? But if you actually break it out, if you've got your own customer insights capability, you do the research, with your research agency, you find the topics, you learn the topics, you gather the insights, and then you can work with another agency to help put it together, build the messages, build the content, and you'll find it's probably almost certainly cheaper, and it's definitely, you're going to get better quality. You're going to build more of that internal, for your marketing team, real knowledge, right? Real knowledge that they can take forward with them, because they're learning about these topics.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And in the end, you're speaking the customer's language, you're speaking, you're talking about what matters to the customers. That's really going to resonate with them in the end, instead of talking about the technical side of air quality, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads to, a benefit that's sort of adding together the other two is this idea of a better vision, and I think senior executives who articulate, I'm talking like CEOs or, so senior leaders in fairly large organizations, when they articulate a vision for the future of their company, normally the good ones, and where the vision is really compelling, is because it is rooted in some kind of why. The why is the bit that's important to most people, not just the what. We may say in terms of business targets, we want to be number one market share by X date, whatever, right? But the why, I think, is what really motivates employees and helps them kind of buy into it and kind of get a depth of what are we all about and what are we trying to do,
Absolutely.
And I think that if you have a customer insights culture, if you're able to shape your products, shape your marketing by learning from customers, you're naturally going to have a better vision about where you want to go, right? If we go back to the sort of, I don't know, the clothing analogy, right? If my company's making scarves and I say I want to expand into gloves, I want to learn all about what customers need in their gloves. They need green ones, they need ones with 4 fingers, 6 fingers, whatever, right? I could articulate a vision of our company to say, not just we want to be number one market share in gloves, but, we believe gloves of the future should be green with 6 fingers because X, Y, Z, we learn this from the customers and we're on a journey to get there, and that's going to get us to number one market share, So it's that kind of way of thinking about your business and really embedding the view of the customer into the vision of the company.
Yeah, and exactly, vision of the company, and so every department is then working towards that as well. So there is a bigger goal in place.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, hand in hand with better experience as well, right? Customer experiences across the journey.
Yeah, and I don't have a huge amount of in-depth hands-on experience in CX programs. I had colleagues in this and previous companies that run that, but I understand them conceptually, and I would say that's a good place to start thinking about data. That's the angle I think about it, because research projects, a lot of what we've just discussed, is what I call research-based insights, right? They are what they get you is it is data-driven, but it's not at a granular level of your actual customers typically, right? It's a sample. It's representing the potential audience very often in the way we do it. Whereas CX is where you start to get into, 10 of our customers gave us an NPS score of X or whatever, right? Or 8 of them made a complaint within 30 days of purchase, whatever. You start to look and you can see at an account or individual level, that data. So I think when we look at the CX aspect of customer insights, market research, it starts you on a journey towards using data to inform the business that isn't just revenue and profit.
Yep.
And I think that's important.
Absolutely. And your last on there, business instrumentation, all of it kind of ends in that, right? How do you make your business decisions, and having that customer insights play a key role in all of those decisions that are being made.
Yeah. And I think this one is the most, thinking back to that, the chart with the 6 stages, right? This is where you get in my view, when you're doing this, you're in probably the last 2 stages of maturity. This is, business instrumentation. And what I mean by that is, if you think of an aeroplane, you wouldn't want to get on an aeroplane where the pilot basically, maybe he knows how fast the airplane's going, but he's not quite sure what altitude you're at. He's not quite sure, where you are in the globe even, right? So it's like we're running our business without the whole view of what's going on around us, right? And in the next chart, this kind of gives a sort of more specific view of what I mean. If you think about traditional business instrumentation, at a high level, it's about units, revenue, and profit. And that's very important data, and you can ask a lot of questions with that. But the questions you ask and the conclusions you reach are rooted internally. They are about, in the end, what you're selling. You think about that, like the questions there. How big? Should we launch a new product? This new product, or how many units could we sell? What's the revenue and profit? What's the volume mix? What's the product mix we need to achieve our revenue goal? What's the product mix we need to achieve our profit goal? Right? It's all rooted in the product. But if you can instrument your business based on customers, the number of questions you could ask, and therefore the number of meaningful ways you can improve your business is multiplied, right? Because you can say, not just how many units of this new product should I sell to achieve what revenue. You can say, how many units of this new product should I sell to which customers to achieve this revenue? Or
absolutely.
Which of these customers should I sell more of anything to achieve this revenue, or any kind of combination? So being able to do that is very, very difficult. Now, if you're in an online 100% e-commerce business, it's a lot easier, right? Very much easier. But if you're not, it can be very challenging to achieve that view. And this is where, this is my final chart, I think. But this is where, the idea or the journey for me of customer insights, it leaves the world of market research, which is all the stuff we've been talking about. It goes past the world of customer experience, CX, and it goes into this whole new world, which is treated as a completely different discipline. And in most organizations, it will be, it's the IT team, it's the business transformation team, it's whatever, but typically it's a IT-driven function. Is all these different types of data you might have in your business, and then how do you create mechanisms to connect them? So you might have, for example, a research-driven segmentation, right? A kind of traditional segmentation, and it says, just to make a very simplified example, there are 3 types of customer in our business. There are those that budget buyers. There are those who are very unsure and, they're willing to pay a bit more for certainty. And there are those who want to spend a lot of money because they like to show off, make up for attitudinal types. Now, the challenge, of course, is so you got that. That's great. Everyone's excited. We can build ad campaigns. We can think up ideas of future products. But you look at, say, your sales data. You look at your transactional data. You look at the people hitting your website. You look at maybe you have a support team, people calling in, emailing in, chat, problems with products, whatever. Like, how do you map between which of those people are those 3 types of people I just described, right? And so being able to connect that view is immensely powerful, and you can do a lot with it. Some of the things are listed on the right-hand corner of that chart. So I won't get into all of that, and I'm still learning and experimenting and thinking of ways around that myself. But I do think if anyone said to me, what's the future of customer insights, I don't think it's just a question of, we could do like surveys in virtual reality world or something like that. I think it's more about how you fuse together the things on this chart.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When you can do that, you can you run your business in a different way. And I would say the customer insights function, the customer insights discipline, however you define that in your organization, becomes very, very influential, and or is it that discipline becomes influential, or it's more like the entire company has become customer centric in its thinking?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's easy to stop at 1 and 2, but the more you start pulling in this internal data, looking at it with all of your the entire data landscape, right? It impacts your business, impacts the decisions that you're making a lot more, and it really takes those insights to a whole new level, right? And you'll be able to then down the line, like you mentioned, your predictive analysis and all of that, you are going to be able to, if you kind of merge that in with all of your business metrics, you can actually see what that impact is looking like, right? Which kind of brings you full circle and helps you get the more buy-in and get senior management on board and things like that. So super useful. It's something that we speak to all of our customers about. Our product kind of enables that as well, where you can pull in all of this information and look at it side by side with all of your research data.
It's like when we don't respond to a customer's support inquiry within 2 hours, what are the chances of us losing revenue, or what revenue will we lose on average, and being able to answer those kind of questions. Very powerful stuff. And you can obviously build a lot of you can make a lot better decisions as an organization where you put your resource.
Perfect. With that, I think we're at the end of our show. Any closing points, Michael?
Well, I guess we covered quite a lot of ground, but I mean, I do think that, as I said at the beginning, I think customer insights is a journey, and I think it's a journey in 2 dimensions. Like, as I said at the beginning, it's a journey because it should be a commitment to continually learn, because customers are changing, in any industry. At some level, they are changing, and you need to go back and learn. And even if somehow you don't feel they were changing, you'll still be able to learn more, by going back, but by continuing that journey of learning. So I think it's a journey in that way, but it's also a journey, I think, like the last chart we discussed, internally in the organization. How can you connect customer-centric thinking in terms of traditional market research with CX data and CX measurement techniques with other types of business and marketing and transactional data? And I think that's a really interesting journey, around digital transformation and putting the customer at the center of it. So that's probably the 2 thoughts I would leave you with.
No, absolutely. It's been wonderful for everyone who's joined. If you're on this journey trying to get it set up within your organization, feel free to reach out to us. We can help you, one from a product side, help you navigate it and get you to that mature part of using customer insights within your organization. So feel free to reach out. You can either put in your questions in the chat, or you've got our, LinkedIn. You can message us on LinkedIn or reach out to us on email. Be happy to set that up for you. Really take a consultative approach to the whole thing, and set you up well in order to achieve that within your company. Michael, thank you so much for taking the time. I think we're definitely going to have you back on the show at some point, whenever you have time for us. We'd really love to have you back. Yeah, perfect.
It's a super interesting area, and I think if everyone out there working on it, I hope you find that too, and you can kind of evangelize that in your organization. So.
Wonderful. With that, everyone, have a lovely weekend, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Shibani.